Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to my beauty industry enthusiasts, content creators, and brand visionaries. Get ready to step into a world where beauty meets business, where the creator economy blends seamlessly with strategy. I'm Sonia, and this is Lipservice, the podcast. We're about to redefine the way that you think about the beauty industry. From the boardroom to the makeup room, we're leaving no stone unturned. Lipservice is your backstage pass to the beauty industry's best kept secrets. Now take out your notebook, fill up your emotional support water bottle, and swipe on your favorite lip gloss. Let's get into the episode. Welcome back to Lipservice, the podcast. Today we have a very special guest from the other side of things. Typically, we interview creators on the podcast, but I thought it would be so great to have someone on who has so much incredible experience in managing talent. Please welcome Becca Bahrke to the podcast, the CEO of Illuminate Social.
Yes,
Welcome.
thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today and, reconnect with you as well. Just honored.
I'm excited to get into it. So for history, Becca and I have known each other for years. She managed talent so many years ago when I was hiring them for various projects. We went to Coachella together. We've seen the things, we've done the things, and she's just a wealth of knowledge. And now she is the head honcho of a talent management company and doing so many cool things. So I'm really excited to get your perspective for aspiring creators who would love to have management or are considering management as a next phase. We will get into all of that and more very shortly. But first, Becca, we have to ask you, what's on your face today?
Yeah, so I am definitely a skincare junkie. I love getting my facials done at Heyday. I go there like once a month,
Ooh.
but basically just trust whatever my facialist Harris recommends me to get. I feel like I did get some Tata Harper, the retinol,
Ooh,
so
okay.
luxurious. I got it like 30% off, which was a great deal. And then I'm really loving Malin and Goats, their sunscreen. Their face sunscreen is just like the best consistency I've ever had in a face sunscreen. I do like Supergoop, but this Malin and Goats one, they've got me. I love it.
Interesting. I always think of them for hand soap, and I know like body care, but facial sunscreen. I'm gonna have to check that out.
It's like comes in a small tube, and every time I go back now, I'm like, "Do you have a larger size?" Because I go through this way too
I
fast.
need a bigger one.
Not yet. It's a newer product for us, and I'm like, "You guys nailed it. It's great."
Oh, good. Okay. Well, everyone will need to check that out. The next question I always ask everyone is if you were headed to your version of the afterlife tomorrow, whatever it looks like for you, what's one product that you take with you? And it can be anything. Like it doesn't have to be a beauty product.
I love that question. Honestly, I feel like one product I'd have to take with me is just like hand lotion. I mean, I'm constantly that's like the one thing I have to put on several times a day. And again, I have one from Melon and Goats that I really love right now. That's just like, it's really oily and just like, it makes your hands feel so not dry. And I hate dry hands more than anything. Wash my hands, instantly need to put lotion on.
That's such a good habit to have, honestly, because I'm the type of person who gets like the hang nail, or not the hang nail, but like a cuticle rip. And I'm like, oh, why am I not the person who's painful. Like good at like doing the, okay, that's on my to-do list. Love it. Good
Oil
response.
them up.
I know, truly. Okay. And then lastly, we work in such like a creative field, even on the talent side of things. You have to be super creative when you're speaking to brands and of course your talent. What is a place that you're going to right now to like get inspiration?
That's a great question. I feel like, Pinterest actually, I kind of like going back on there again and just seeing like, what are people doing still here? And like, what's kind of the inspiration. It really is such a beautiful platform. And I love that it can introduce you to so many new and different things. We don't have a lot of creators who are even on Pinterest, but I just find it so inspiring myself creatively, like when how I want to get inspired for home decor, but then also in terms of finding new types of creators.
Yeah, that's a great one. I mean, it's an OG, honestly. I
It's an
remember
OG.
so many years ago when they opened their office in Brooklyn on the waterfront, and I was working for a client that had some sort of event there and just being like, this is amazing. And now it's still like,
Yeah.
it's never lost its gem, like its sparkleness
Yeah.
in the world.
Feel
It's
like they're
so
having a
good.
resurgence recently.
I
And
agree.
I feel like for our creators who can get people on Pinterest, or that's like it's just a great way to convert to brand partnerships because they're showing the link clicks, you're showing like just you're having like a follower do an action. So I think it's a really interesting way to see like who's active on there.
Exactly. Thank you so much for giving us that insight into Pinterest. I feel like that is a place for creators to definitely dive in. I love it. Okay, well, let's get into the episode because we have so much to ask you today. All right, so let's start with Illuminate Social. Tell us more, just
Mhm.
like overarching. What does the company do? What is your role? Like, what do you guys specialize in?
Yeah, so Illuminate Social is specifically a digital creator management firm. So we manage content creators handling their brand partnerships. We do the negotiations with the brands, facilitating the contracting process, and then once that contract is signed, making sure they've got all their details for the campaign to go live. Approving those drafts, et cetera, and just keeping the influencer really organized and streamlined. I basically started Illuminate because I felt like what was missing in the space was a level place of transparency. And I think that's what is really hard for creators to give their business over and then not know what's going on. When am I getting paid on this? What happened with this project or where is this in the pipeline? So it was really stuff that I was like, we have all of this information. Let's just make this a little bit easier for creators to access this. So on day one, I created our one of its kind app called Spark, which now is finally an app and not just a desktop platform. It was previously, but we just launched the app. And basically, this is the home where creators can see everything from A to Z about their career. And to me, I was just like, there's so many people out in this industry that, have talent management experience, have their own niche. And I was like, I want to just give transparency to everybody. And I think
Sure.
there's a special type of creator who needs that. And, we keep them organized, streamlined, and then also obviously the pieces of strategy and how do we develop your career further? What's the longevity here? So
Mhm.
that's really what Illuminate is, what we stand for, and what we're about, and why we started this business about over 3 years ago now. And yeah, we represent around 70 content creators, just under 80, and have a team of amazing women that are all over the country. So yeah, I'm just honored and blessed to be the leader here amongst all these people.
Love it.
And I mean, the team they're so amazing. I think that they're also passionate and excited about the industry, and that's really refreshing to see.
Mhm. Yeah, that's wonderful. I was just going to ask you how many creators are you representing? So around like
Mhm.
70 to 80 is where you're at
Yep.
right now. Um,
Yes.
of those creators, are most of them Instagram first, TikTok first, YouTube
Mhm.
first? Like I'm sure they're on multiple platforms, but what are you seeing
Yeah.
as like the breakout?
Yeah. Mostly we have Instagram first creators,
Okay.
TikTok being a primary or a secondary channel,
Hmm.
and then some with YouTube as well. For us, when I track our like the partnerships, even our creators who have a larger following on TikTok are doing more brand work on Instagram. So
Hmm.
TikTok's only like it's less than 15% of all of our paid work we do.
Wow.
So yeah, which is just crazy. It makes me feel great with who knows whatever's going to happen with TikTok. Like my
Sure.
business isn't fully stocked in there,
Yeah.
but it does say something. I think on one side, brands feel really confident about Instagram. They can see that quick
Hmm.
turnaround. Sometimes TikTok, it's like 30 days before you really see the maturity of a post. And
Mm.
for people who want quick results, Instagram is much more like 24 to 48 hours. So I do think that that's kind of like a security thing
Hmm.
of why people feel like they're spending more money on Instagram, at least with the creators we work with.
Sure.
And then we also, we represent a lot of lifestyle parents and moms like all over the country, middle America.
Hmm.
And, I think that consumer is really on Instagram as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I find it interesting that you said that, but I'm glad that you did, because I
Mhm.
agree with your sentiment that brands still feel more comfortable spending on Instagram. And I see it for
Yeah.
like so many reasons, including everything that you said. I think like the monetization, funnel there is more clear, right? You know to
Yeah.
go to stories, you know the links, like there's a checkout process, like you're good to go.
Yeah.
TikTok is a little bit more chaotic, for
Yeah.
and I think brand deals on TikTok really siphoned out in the last year because
Absolutely.
so I'm seeing more deals that are TikTok shop forward over there, going
Mhm.
to be a deal on TikTok, unless it's a talent that it's like they live and breathe there and you
Right.
want that talent, right? It's like someone who has millions of followers and it's like, that's where they are. Um,
Yeah.
Really interesting. I'm glad that you said that. A lot of
Mhm.
people who listen to this podcast are TikTok first, and I find that I'm like forcing them onto Instagram, and I'm like,
Yeah.
ladies, people, like I need you to be
Yeah.
on Instagram.
Diversify those revenue streams,
I know,
you
you
got
got to
you
do
have
it.
to. You have to be everywhere, unfortunately.
I
It's
know.
you don't have to do everything perfectly, but you do
Sure.
need to be everywhere.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, but it is true. You got to figure it all out. Okay.
Mhm.
So, one of the questions I had for you was from your perspective as a manager and someone who is like seeing this industry happen for several years. So, you've been doing this as the CEO of your own company for the last 30, but before that, you've been in it for several more years past that.
Mm.
Um, what are you seeing currently as like trends in the space? I know we just kind of covered one of
Right.
them, but I'm sure in terms of what brands are coming to you with and like for the actual deal process, like what are they looking for? And then what type of creator are they asking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it feeds off our what we were just talking about really well
Hmm.
because what I've been saying for the last like 4 years basically is that TikTok gave birth to this everyday, authentic, relatable influencer.
Yeah.
And we're seeing, there's also so many more people in the world that consider themselves influencers. And then so many people that now want that as a career path that we just didn't see that 10
Yeah.
years ago when I was starting out in this industry. Everyone
For
were
sure.
bloggers and,
Yeah.
it was much more like people who had money to also be
Hmm.
luxurious fashion bloggers.
Yeah.
And, now it can just be someone in their home who's, you know, doesn't have makeup on, has a sweatsuit on, and is talking about their day. Like we were able to fall in love with so many more characters. I like to put it that way.
Yeah.
It feels like your neighbor, it feels like, it's so many different types of people to trust, which was really fascinating to see. And then I think it took some time for brands to get that, but now, they want to partner with somebody who I embodies their type of consumer.
Yeah.
It's not just these high level fashion forward people who are at New York Fashion Week.
Yeah.
So that definitely has shifted, and I think that is really exciting about this industry. The other piece of that, though, is finding these people who have a long career ahead of them and this longevity, and not
Hmm.
just this trend. So, like the
Yeah.
Bama Rush girls,
Yeah.
like I saw a lot of management companies scoop these girls up, and I even did a partnership with one. And like by the time we were invoicing for the partnership, the management company didn't even rep her anymore. And she was
Yikes.
like, I'm not doing influencing, I hate this. So
Hmm.
it can be difficult for brands to identify like who is going to be a creator by the end of this partnership, one, and
Sure.
that is still going to be there, and like this
Hmm.
trend is, they're going to still have this following and engagement. So
Hmm.
I've noticed it's more difficult to identify that, but then there's a lot of vetting that we do in order to identify, does this person have a community that they built with their following that shows that this is, we're going to be here for a long time, not a short time.
Yeah.
Um, and I think when brands are now looking for creators, they're much smarter about the analytics they're looking for.
Hmm.
I used to have creators who could earn $250,000 a year and have 80%, a very skewed male audience, even though they're female,
Hmm.
very low US audience. It just wasn't the questions people were asking. So
Sure.
that is so much more before you confirm a partnership. There's just so much more vetting going
Hmm.
into the process. And I mean, I just was reading an article the other day about Captivate's new technology where they have an AI tool where they're actually assessing all the past stuff you've done and your dialogue and seeing like, did they speak about
Crazy.
war, politics, all of this stuff. And
Hmm.
it's, there is so much more betting going involved, which can be great, but also like a little nerve
Exhausting.
wracking and
Yes.
exhausting. Exactly.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's helping us also see like who has that star quality power and like,
Mhm.
who's just here doing the things, posting, kind of having their 15 minutes.
Yeah. When you say star quality power, like what are some of
Mm.
those like green flags that you're like, this person has it?
Mm,
I'm sure you've seen lots of people come through where you're like, this person creates good content and they're fine and they have a
yeah,
lovely community, but they're not a star. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
right.
stars are hard to find.
Exactly.
Stars are hard to find. But
Yeah.
when you see one, what are you noticing that is like a commonality with other people?
I think what I really see is that their channel is like their own individual reality show. So if I can go to someone and say like, I know what they had for breakfast, I know what they were thinking before they dropped off their kids for school, I know what then their problem was in the middle of the day, and then I know how their day ended and what they had for dinner and like all of that.
Hmm.
If I can really feel like I was included in your journey, to me that feels like the star quality power. It's like,
Mm,
okay, the content, yeah, is the content good? That's step one. But then, like, are you able to really like get me in the door and care
yeah.
about everything that's going on to
Hmm.
the point where, like, I'm looking at some of these mommy influencers, their children. I feel like if I were to see them in real life, I would like be like, oh, we know each other. But I'm like, no, this kid has never met me, and I might scare it.
So true.
But it's like I should really feel like you are like my friend that I'm going to.
Yeah.
And I think that can be hard for people. And there's definitely successful creators who can be more boundaried and not necessarily showcase their life in that way. But
Hmm.
I do see ones that get that trust and then are able to convert that to purchase, which brands love,
Hmm.
obviously. It's like
That's the
that's where I'm
goal.
connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting. I think that's such a good point about like being able to share all these things and making people care about them. And I feel like it's always the
Right.
creator who is stopping themselves from sharing all of those things. Like for someone who's working on the opposite side a
Right.
lot and talking to creators who are like, oh, well, I don't know, like who cares about that, blah, blah, blah.
It's
Like,
always the who cares.
I know. And it's like,
And I'm like,
no,
people do.
like they do care
They do
weirdly,
care.
and it's always like the most trivial thing that you'll find is like the
Exactly.
like little breaking point of someone finally DMing you and like wanting to leave a
Right.
comment or like really wanting to connect.
You're like, I
Yesterday,
feel seen here.
exactly. Like yesterday, I asked people like, "What water bottle are we drinking now?" Like, I lost my
Oh,
water
yeah.
bottle. Like, people feel passionate about the water bottle. Like, so
Oh,
many
yeah.
DMs about what water bottle I needed to purchase, and I'm like, you see, like, I almost didn't post that, and like, not that,
Right.
but this is just an example. Like, it's just these small things that people feel really strongly about that tie you to each other,
Mhm.
and then make the big things that later on, when I say
Right.
this is my, recommendation, that people are like, yeah, like she gets it. Like we have the same water bottle.
Exactly.
She listens to me. Like there's something.
Exactly. You're establishing that trust, and
Hmm.
I think that that can be scary and intimidating to do, but it's, if I'm sitting here and I'm watching 10-part story about how like your experience through the Starbucks checkout line that something crazy happened, like I'm in it and I will probably listen to anything you say now.
So true. I think that really became deeply apparent. I think it's always been apparent, but it came deeply apparent for me when Emily Kaiser like really started to blow up. And people
Mm,
were like, what is it about this woman that like intrigues people so deeply? And I'm like, it's literally that she's just living her life as though you care about every single
exactly.
part of it, right? Like you care about the Starbucks order, you need to know what soda she's drinking, you care about her
Yep.
thoughts on her water bottle, like how she wakes up in the morning. Like at people, she just like micro story told every
Right.
single part of her life. And people became obsessed with that. And I'm like, because that is what people want.
Exactly.
It sounds stupid, but it's
Exactly.
genius.
It's genius, exactly. I mean, it's why we loved watching, I think, like reality shows, and like those first influencers was like Lauren Conrad and Paris Hilton. These were
Yes.
reality stars and they ended up
Hmm.
being some of our first influencers. And now we have so many more people that people can identify with, because look,
Yeah.
I can't identify with Paris Hilton's life, but
Yeah.
I can find, now a creator where I'm like, oh, that's how she cleans this one thing. Okay, I'm gonna do
Hmm.
it that way too.
So true. And I think also just thinking of Paris is how like there's also different styles of creators. Like while people who probably have like a very long career ahead of them are more relatable, there are still people that are aspirational, like a Paris, that people just, again,
Absolutely.
like they just want to know. Like the tour of her like wellness room the other day with Megan
Oh yeah.
Trainor, I was like, people were just like, okay, what is in there? What is she using to stay so young? And
Yeah.
that is also like a type of influencer, uber wealthy
Mhm.
people who travel over the world. Like wealth wags. I feel like wags really
Yeah.
had a moment
Oh,
there because
definitely.
people just wanted to know, like, what is this professional sports wife like doing all day?
Mhm. Exactly.
So there is like an area, I think, for everyone, but I think the more mass potential right now definitely is like the quote unquote everyday person. Like,
I mean, and that's who's getting the Walmart deals, and let me tell you, Walmart pays a lot of money. So
exactly, exactly. I know. Like, stop trying to get on the Prada beauty PR list and start
oh,
trying to get on Walmart's
exactly.
radar.
Exactly.
I love it. And when you talk about like having a really engaged community and brands looking for
Mhm.
people who like, okay, they're going to take this community to the next level, what's like some of the engagement rates that you see that
Mm.
brands are like, okay, like send us people who have over this percentage? And
Yeah.
also, what are some of the tools that you see creators are using? So many people I think have like
Mhm.
newsletter, broadcast channel, this, like what
Yeah.
is kind of the next step for the followers?
Yeah, I feel like I used to see a lot of 3 to 5% kind of engagement rates, but I'm
Mhm.
definitely seeing a bigger shift of even like, 5 to 10%, but
Wow.
making sure it's not an average engagement rate of 8% because one thing went viral. It's like
Sure.
really looking in nitty-gritty and what's the consistency factor here.
Mhm.
Um, so that's definitely a piece. And then looking at link clicks, they want to see thousands of link clicks.
Mhm.
And not under 1,000. And I
Mhm.
mean, there's room for that, but I think that that's something that's been a huge increase. Is like how can you actually get people to leave the app, the page, and
Yeah.
do something, do an
Mhm.
action. Um, and then what was your other question?
Oh,
Like in terms
how
of
do you
engagement?
see
Oh,
some of the
tools.
creators? Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So the tools and platforms. I mean, I would definitely say in terms of like the creators who are using LTK a lot
Mhm.
or any sort of affiliate
Mm.
shoppable thing. I'm seeing a lot of the if you comment this, I'm like forgetting what the
Yeah.
technology is called right now,
Many
but
many
comment this and
chat.
you get yes, thank you, many chat.
Mhm.
And I think that that's an amazing resource and tool. I mean, like it's just so
Yeah.
genius and smart. And I'm curious. I mean, I think there's a lot that's going to happen with that tool right now, and like
Sure.
where is Instagram or Meta going to intervene so that they own some of this versus like where are those shoppable platforms going to intervene so that they get a piece of that?
Mhm.
Something's going to change, but I think where it's going is really smart. Like, how can we get this as much
Automate
information
it.
into the followers
Mhm.
exactly into their hands as possible? And I mean, I'm even seeing more of these. Like, for example, I just saw Jenna Lyons post her LTK closet, and I was just
Mhm.
like, this is so fascinating to me because obviously she is like such a fashion icon.
Yeah.
And now to me, like being on this platform that's where you've got all of your girls posting the try on hauls every day, I was like really excited to see someone at her level have this
Mm.
kind of, shoppable closet.
Mhm.
So I think there's just more people really understanding you have to have the information one available somewhere, have your LTK closet, your house, like make sure that people can access the information they need and
Yeah.
helps you not have to do as much work. But then two, like being able to actually have that conversation in an organic way where it is natural for people to then I want to know exactly what shirt she's wearing or what this
Sure.
is. Like, I think for so long it was just about like, you tag the brands or things like that, or you wanted to be secretive about it. And like only
Mhm.
if people DM'd me and engaged. And I feel like the information is so much more easy to access now. It's just about
Yeah.
making sure you have it in a place that where you can benefit and monetize.
Yeah. And are any of your creators using broadcast channels or like an email newsletter or any of kind of like Substack type things?
Yeah. We definitely have a handful and the like Instagram broadcast channels for sure. There's one
Mhm.
I love. It's like our Swifty group and she like always is posting about Taylor Swift stuff
So
and books and it's
cute.
really fun way like where it's not like she's using that necessarily to sell a product, but she's using
Mhm.
that to engage the community. And I love that. And we're definitely seeing a lot more people do an uptick back into doing newsletters. And
Mhm.
we even just posted on our Instagram again. We were like, make sure you have, like, go back to the blog, have a blog, like have
Yeah.
something you own and
Mhm.
where you can direct people. And
Yep.
yeah, I think there's just a lot more resources now where you can really monetize so many different things.
Yeah. I'm also really excited to see what happens with the ManyChat technology. Next up, I
Yeah.
agree, like something's going to shift because what's very interesting is I have two creators that I mentor that use that and both
Mm,
got like a violation from Instagram for
of
having
course.
it. And so there is a big
Hmm.
fight. And I think Adam Mosseri even said something about this, but like apparently they're approved technology, but then it
Mm,
like does get flagged as spam sometimes. So the account
right.
doesn't work. And I honestly think it's
Especially
going
if
to
you get too many
be
people commenting.
exactly. I think it's going to be that like Meta releases like a way to do it through them, of
Exactly.
course, because they want like a piece of the revenue
Yeah.
and data. But I would not be surprised if ShopMy and LTK also figure something out that works through
Yeah.
them. But I
Yeah.
really think that affiliate is still one of the largest ways for influencers to make money. A
I
hundred
totally
percent.
agree. And I think sometimes it's so underutilized. Like when I see
Mhm.
a creator post something without a link, I'm just like, what are you doing?
I need a mini chat
Like
that just replies to those and be like, if you don't see a link,
literally,
send them. Be like, what are you doing?
what are you doing? Link, link, link. Come on. You're like
I know.
literally leaving dollars on the table. I
I
mean,
know.
I've even personally been like, I wish I had just a walking affiliate link because like I've sold so
Hmm.
many people come over my apartment and want my couch. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've sold a lot of couches.
Be like, here, I'll text you a link.
Exactly. Here's my link. But I'm like, we're all, and that's actually what I think is a big like future kind of piece is like at the
Hmm.
end of the day, we all influence each other and
Yeah.
we have these spokespeople who are really trusted authorities based on their following and their communities. But I
Hmm.
do think as once Meta kind of figures out how to get involved in this space,
Hmm.
it can create people like myself to then like be able to like if somebody does ask me, I'll share here's how where I bought it and I can earn a
Yeah.
dollar or $2 from that. So
Yeah.
I'll be interesting to see what happens with the affiliate space in the next
A
5 to 10 years.
100%. Yeah. And I think that's what TikTok Shop has done so well, right? There's like a lot of things
Exactly.
wrong with TikTok Shop, but pretty much anyone can sell anything that they like
Exactly.
now. And it's just growing
Hmm.
more and more with more reputable brands. It's expanding. We're getting into
Yep.
live shopping. So, I mean, and this like future partnership with Amazon. I'm like,
Mm,
this is not going anywhere. So
yeah.
learn how to sell things online, people. That's
Exactly.
practice your selling. Practice your selling.
Exactly.
Well, I'd also love to know for like an emerging creator or someone who has like management on their vision board, what are
Hmm.
some basics that like you're looking for? So we talked a little bit about like what are brands looking for, but
Yep.
at your agency, when you look to take on new talent or people pitch you, what does that
Hmm.
process look like? And what are some things that you're asking for right off the bat?
Yeah. So instantly, like the first kind of gut check a person should do if they're like, am I ready for it? Is are you earning a livable income just from brand partnerships
Mm-hmm.
and not just affiliate? Like I'm talking just your brand partnerships income because
Mm-hmm.
we don't manage affiliate revenue. That's
Yeah.
all for our creators. So you could be earning $100,000 a month in affiliate, but you're earning zero in brand partnerships. Like
Mm-hmm.
we don't really have anything to do for you here.
Sure.
So people who are already kind of seen in that space understand what they're doing, professional, they get the baseline of it.
Mm-hmm.
Where we come in is that we're able to, we think, take that obviously to the next level. How can
Mm-hmm.
we strategize a career that has longevity? How can we increase your revenue? How can we compare what you're getting paid versus this person who maybe looks very similar
Mm-hmm.
in terms of engagement, following, etc., and make sure you guys are getting paid the same thing and that there's not this disparity. And then just having the benefit, obviously, for invoice and collections and having that power of a
Yeah.
management firm behind you. But so first things first is, yeah, we want to make sure you have enough income for us to take that to the next
Yeah.
level.
Oh, and can I
And then
ask,
second,
sorry, Can I
Oh,
just
yeah.
interrupt you on the income piece? Would you mind just like
Yeah.
quoting kind of like an average income
Yeah.
monthly? Because I feel like some people think that that's like $1,000 and some people's like that's
Right.
$10,000, right? So what do you
Yeah.
feel like is a good range in terms of incomings for deal flow per month?
Yeah, so we always think of first on an annual basis,
Mm,
just because, months
yeah,
can vary. I've seen it. So
sure.
on an annual basis, if someone's coming to us, we are hoping they're anywhere between 75 to $100,000 a
Okay.
year in brand partnerships, which, can be anywhere between as little, let's say you have a bad month, not a bad month, but you might have a month that's $5,000 and then your next month's 10,000,
Mm-hmm.
kind of staying somewhere in that range. We think that's really healthy. You're getting consistent partnerships.
Yeah.
And then also looking at the volume of it. So is it
Mm-hmm.
you're doing 20 partnerships for $10,000, or are you
Mm-hmm.
doing 5 partnerships for
Mm-hmm.
$10,000, which is
Sure.
very different.
Yeah.
And then are those partnerships coming from? So
Mm-hmm.
is it things you're mostly applying for on platforms like Popular Pays, or
Mm-hmm.
some of these more where it is going to be a lot more of a volume game?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this coming from brand direct or reputable brand agencies? So really trying to understand, like, what's your visibility in this space,
Yeah.
and what introductions are we going to need to make that feel really reasonable, and like, yes, if I got them in front of this client, they're going to book? Or
Mm-hmm.
is it a matter of just like, yeah, the unawareness of it?
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, we're talking about now every type of person has the ability to become an influencer. So some people,
Sure.
it comes on to them so fast and they're like, I don't even know where to start. Like,
Yeah.
what is affiliate linking?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of understanding what's the level of education we have here, and
Yeah.
then what's your management past and experience. If it's first time people, we really want to explain what our process looks like and how we're establishing trust together.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that can be some of the more difficult things for people right away, is like, I built this, I've been doing this on my own for so long, I don't just want
Mm-hmm.
to hand it over.
Yeah.
And it's like,
A
all right,
hundred
now
percent.
let's look at what that separation of work is. What's our role in your business, and what's your role going to look like now? Because it is different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be kind of hard for people at first. So really assessing, like, am I ready for this step?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then really knowing like what you are looking for. Some people, they want to see quick results within a month. And I always tell them, we're not the agency for you then, because for us, we're looking to build a long-term relationship, and we know what we can do. And we're going to start seeing those results 3 to 6 months in. I even see that with my employees. When an employee first starts, I don't expect them month one to be like the expert, perfect person at everything
Yeah.
in their role. But I'm always like, 3 months in, you're going to feel like it's a cakewalk. 6 months in, you'll be like, I've been working here forever. And
Yeah.
I think that trajectory is similar with creators that we manage. Um, and then in terms of like analytics, we're looking for, something where it's 60% plus US following.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say 60 is on the lower end. When we see like 95% US audience, I'm like, we got to get this person. Um, and then, we want the gender that follows you to be who you're selling to.
Mm-hmm.
And, women are the majority kind of consumer in the country. Retail industry calls, the consumer she, I
Mm-hmm.
remember learning that when I was in retail school. And so primarily you do want a majority female following.
Yeah.
And, even for some of our male influencers, I would say there's still going to be women following these men, shopping
Sure.
for the men in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so making sure that we're targeting the right audiences, and then looking at the health of them engagement, link clicks, etc. And like understanding, are you able to organically integrate brands in your content where your followers are engaging still? And it's not just
Yeah.
like you post something that does well and then an ad bombs, everything. There are a lot of things that are out of their control. Meta, you have hashtag ad or you have paid partnership. Obviously, if an audience doesn't engage with that type of content, then it doesn't get served to those
Mm-hmm.
people. So there is a level out of your control, but we just don't want to see so much disparity.
Yeah. That absolutely makes sense. And I think those are a lot of
Hmm.
good benchmarks for people to be aware of. And I mean, there's, of
Yeah,
course, I don't want people to hear this and be like, oh my God, I'm so far off for that. I'll never have a manager,
right.
right? Like, there's also so many different styles of management companies. There are people who specialize
Exactly.
in smaller
And
creators,
developing.
and
Hmm.
exactly, it's just not what you guys do, which is completely fine.
Exactly.
I would say though that the majority of talent agencies, I think, are more in line with you guys. There are people who specialize,
Yeah.
I think, more on the TikTok side of things, who are a lot smaller. They have micro influencers,
Yep.
but they get a lot less handholding, a lot less service, I would say,
Exactly.
a
That's
lot
where the
less.
manager has 20
Exactly.
or plus creators they manage. And at our
Hmm.
agency, like we try to keep that between 8 to 10, so
Sure.
everybody, we even say on our website, we're like, you should feel like you're the only talent represented by your manager. That
Yeah.
you, and I'll even see some of our talent and they're like, wait, she has more people she reps than me. And I'm like, good. I'm glad you're saying that because,
Yeah.
yes, you should have our full dedicated attention.
I love it. And I'm sure a lot of people pitch you guys to rep
Hmm.
them. It's not just you, reaching out. What are some like no-nos if you're pitching
Mm,
management, and what are some like, this is like so nice?
yeah.
What can
I
some
would
people
say,
learn?
yeah, the things that we love to see is definitely if somebody is saying, they understand what management is. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
my inbox is so full. I feel like I'm dropping the ball on things because of this, and I'm not able to have enough time to create content. When I
Mm,
read that sentence, I'm like, check, 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 because you understand you
yeah,
don't have time to do all the nitty gritty things. You want more time to do what, you built your career on, which is creating content.
sure.
That to me is like the best green flag. Um, where I get more hesitant is typically like somebody who might be more developing coming in saying like, "Hey, I have, 1 million followers. I've never done a brand partnership. I feel like I'm leaving dollars on the table. I don't even know how to start."
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is always just like, well, okay, I think we gotta start 10 steps
Back.
back, and I
Yeah.
definitely have people that I'll see that or friends in my network, and I'm like, oh, you really are leaving dollars on the table. You could be doing this. And I'll give them kind of my little handbook, I would say, that's like a lengthy email where I'm identifying what's working in their feed, what isn't, how to like start organically incorporating brand content. And then I'll just watch, for 3 to 5 months, see are
Mm-hmm.
they doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that kind of in one ear out the other? Um, so that's much more for developing talent. And then on the other side, I think a lot of people come with expectations. So saying like,
Mm,
I'm really looking for management. I want to confirm 20K in partnerships every month. And I want to work with this, and this brand, especially if I hear I want to work with Prada, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, just the unawareness of like what it means to do that.
yeah.
My first question would be like, "Oh, you want to work with Prada? Okay. Have you ever posted about Prada? No. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, most people have to work like years to get on a Prada list,
Yeah.
to get the mailer. And
Mhm.
then if it's, well, I don't get it. I saw this person do it. Why can't I? And it's just when I see a little bit of the like, why not me?
Sure.
um, I want to educate and explain, but then say what steps it takes to get there. And then I
Mhm.
think, again, when I'm working with understanding where a creator to me just feels like they don't get their own brand.
Mm, mhm.
So, if you are posting fast fashion and then you're saying you want to be at front row at New York Fashion Week,
Yeah.
I'm thinking there's a little bit of a disconnect here. And I want to explain to you, like,
Sure.
why this isn't a good investment of your time and resources because,
Mhm.
Fashion Week is hard to break into.
Yeah.
And, I think that can be hard for people to hear sometimes, especially when they have big dreams and goals. And I never
Yeah.
want to damper those, but it's just like, let's be aligned on what the brand is and how we can get to where we want to be and achieve those goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are all great tips and absolutely make sense. So for anybody who is considering reaching out, those are some things to keep in mind, when it's time to make that next step. And I think you mentioned this a little bit, but when do you think is a good time for people to start reaching out? You talked a little bit about like the email box is overflowing and I can't
Hmm.
create as much content. When do you think it is the right time for someone to explore? getting
Yeah, again, I think it's really once you're making that livable income where you feel like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm earning enough to like not do a different job if I don't want to, or I'm
Yeah.
earning enough on my own. I feel like I could give 20% to somebody to help me.
Mhm.
And if you don't feel like you can give away 20% of your current earnings, then it doesn't make sense quite yet.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think people forget that, like, you have to give away some of your money for
Mhm.
management to manage. That's, like, how it works.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
Well, I think this is so amazing. We've gotten through so many of the questions that I had and then some. One other thing I think that would be helpful for people is if, let's say, they're not talking to you, this is just like a general,
Mhm.
like they're starting to talk to management. What are some like red flags that you would say about other management agencies, like
Mm,
not naming names, but just like generally, like, oh, if
right.
someone says this, you might want to tread lightly or ask more questions? Like,
Yeah,
what are some things that I'm sure creators have come to you from negative experiences and they let you know what has
absolutely.
happened? What are some things that people should watch out for? Because I'm always wanting to make sure people don't get taken advantage of out there.
Yes. I would say my number one, and this is just why I created Illuminate, is payment transparency. So
Mhm.
if you feel like the payment process is not fair, you're not getting paid, like if you're getting paid once a month,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. You should be getting paid more frequently. If you there's no way for you to access what you're getting paid on, when you might be getting paid on it, and where, like any of those details, that's a bit of a red flag. Um, I would also say that if so management agreements, they're pretty boilerplate, but there are definitely sections that are cause for pause
Mhm.
and making sure. I think one, if they're not touching your affiliate business, they should not be commissioning on your affiliate business. If there's no
Mhm.
service provided, don't there's no need for them to demand commission on that. I've
Yeah.
also seen agreements that will literally say they get their commission on like expense reimbursements and like just random
Hmm.
things that are outside, and
Yeah.
I'm like, look out for those things for
Sure.
sure. It again should be what we commission on is what we're providing a service for.
Mhm.
um and then I think, the other thing that I've just seen a lot is what I like to say is like hostile management. And if it's not clear that every opportunity is going to be shared with you, no matter
Mhm.
what, no matter if it's $0 or $1 million, that's not the right management company for you.
Mhm.
We will literally present anything at zero upwards, and it's your decision whether or not you want to do it. And we'll weigh in on why or why not something's a good idea. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, if somebody says, yes, I want to do this, we say yes,
Yeah.
and we'll facilitate that partnership.
Mhm.
I've just seen recently, some people coming in like, nope, we're not taking anything below 15,000 or whatever it
Mhm.
is. But then I see the creator being like, well, I wanted to do that. I'm sorry. And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is crazy to me. It's your career. You should be in the driver's seat of your own career. So asking those types of questions of like, how do I know what's going on with the partnerships I forward you?
Mhm.
I think is a big thing. We do also offer shared inboxes. So,
Mhm.
um, a creator can have an email that they have access to and we also have access to.
Mm.
That way, it doesn't necessarily, like, everybody just has the opportunity to understand what's going on and it doesn't feel hidden. I know
Yeah.
sometimes it'll be like, here's the email that you need to use now and you're never going to know what's in your inbox. And I think that that's terrifying. But then also, you should be able to ask questions on everything, like where did this opportunity go. And again,
Yeah.
we have the tool Spark where anyone
Mhm.
could log in at any given time and understand what happened with that one opportunity I forwarded like 5 weeks ago and see
Mhm.
exactly what happened.
Mm.
um,
That's
so
so
I think
interesting.
that's yeah, just like ask for what the transparency looks like.
Mhm.
And looking out for making sure in the contract things aren't people aren't asking for more agency fee than the services they're providing.
Yeah, those are excellent call outs, and I feel like someone listening who maybe is, like, newer on their journey would be like, "That seems
Hmm.
obvious," but, I mean, from the background that Becca and I come from, like, years and years of being here, both of us a decade, and it's part of the reason why I always tell creators, like, I always have the gut check, like, "You don't need a manager."
Right.
But it's because I think people lean into management is going to fix this, or I'm going to
Right.
have this type of career, or like all of these things through management. And that isn't the case. And so that's why I always tell people,
Yeah.
like, you don't really need a manager, because number one, I do think that it's a very small percentage of creators who can make the income and afford to pay somebody else
Mhm.
and have that longevity in career. And I think most
Right.
people really need to train themselves on all of these things before they
Yep.
get to somebody else. And in addition to that, my advice comes from that area, because I've seen so many people get screwed over. Like, not everyone is of the
Exactly.
caliber that your company is, with transparency, payment issues,
Mhm.
taking creators off of the emails. As someone who's been on the other side
Right.
doing the brand deals, and I know friends who have said the same things, like, I would have done it for
Mhm.
less because I know you, or I really
Right.
wanted to be in that brand, or, I really wanted this thing. Like, sometimes creators just have a personal, attachment
Exactly.
to something that they want to do. And there should be that open ended conversation always, but it's not the case for every company. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I would love if you have just any last little bit of something for someone who's on the beginning of their journey, like a
Mm.
little nugget of wisdom that you'd like to leave for people.
Yeah, I would just say, like, be continue to be yourself in this space. It's really easy to look at what someone else is doing. It's easy to look at what somebody else is getting and want that, but at the end of the day, you're you, and it can feel really obvious when you're not being authentically yourself, and your followers can feel that.
Mhm.
And then it just can hurt everything can kind of crumble in different ways. So just be authentically you. And if something doesn't feel right, if you're like, I want to work with this brand, this partnership's really great, or like the fee is really awesome, but I'm unsure about this, listen to those things and make sure that you're just, yeah, showing up to be authentically yourself.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time, Becca. We will link everywhere where people can get in contact with you or your team, see, of course, Illuminate's Instagram and all the details if you're interested in connecting. And yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.